The Chinese subsidiary of Porsche is a well-oiled machine. It features quality luxury vehicles, an effort to increase classy electric cars, and to top it off, it consistently places as the leading brand in customer service. It is a company wired towards making dreams come true. So we were very surprised to hear of Paul Chan's rather negative experience with Porsche, which seems at odds with the success of the company and its customer service records. So what went wrong? And what needs to change so that this experience doesn't materialize again? With this in mind, our team, Nick, Charlotte, Angus, and myself, have asked, how can Porsche China Motors Limited reform their customer service system within 3 years to ensure customer satisfaction? Firstly, we have to acknowledge the strengths of Porsche China's customer service system that has led to its high performance in general within China. Porsche China's appeal ranking was 761 out of a 1,000-point system, ranking first among the Chinese vehicle brands. This metric, based off more than 30 attributes such as setting up, driving feel, and safety, reflects a brand and product that customers actually want and satisfies their needs. Similarly, Porsche received a dealer satisfaction rating of 848 out of 1,000 and a score of 735 out of 1,000 on the China Sales Satisfaction Index, which exposes a high overall buyer and dealer satisfaction rate. So what strengths does Porsche have that has led to its customer service success? Firstly, we need to acknowledge the product experience. Porsche's cars are built to serve the customer, from its driving maneuverability to the way it's designed for maximum comfort. Secondly, Porsche China's dedicated customer relations function has enabled it to provide top-down, streamlined approaches to customer service. And lastly, the act of assigning one sales rep to each customer has enabled Porsche to provide a personalized experience that customers buying from an expensive brand have come to expect. It is important that these strengths be retained in Porsche China's customer service strategy. Nevertheless, we've found two key weaknesses that undermine Porsche's strengths, weaknesses that either need to be changed or mitigated. Firstly, there is a lack of streamlined communication between customer, dealer, and manufacturer, leading to a more complex customer experience than needed. Secondly, while one of Porsche's strengths is its one sales rep for one customer approach, this has led to a bit too much of a reliance on the competency of the individual sales rep, and this must be mitigated. We'll see that these two weaknesses permeate the customer experience and lead to issues within the customer journey that need to be solved. So now, let's talk about what happened to Paul Chan. A car enthusiast in love with the new Porsche Taycan model and already interested in purchasing a luxury car, Paul starts his journey at the dealership. He is greeted by sales rep David and quickly allowed to test and buy his dream vehicle. After Paul puts down a deposit, David rushes Paul through the specifications and sends him out the door. This leads to Paul revising and changing his specifications over the next month, and it is now David's responsibility to make sure these specifications reach the manufacturer. Wouldn't it have been easier to sort out these specifications on the first day? And if not, is it putting too much reliance on David to make sure these specifications are implemented during manufacturing? We'll see. After this, Paul continually asked David for updates on his purchase to receive blunt and vague replies about sometime in October. Finally, in October, the Taycan is delivered. However, it is missing the key specifications Paul had asked for. The sales rep had indeed made a mistake. And he even fills out the customer evaluation card himself, asking Paul to simply sign it. Ultimately, Paul is left an unhappy customer. Of course, this is an extreme example. Many of the issues can be traced back to a mistake made by the sales rep. But isn't this the perfect use case to solve for a company like Porsche, already doing so well in general with customer service? We think so. We will now run through the specific issues from Paul's journey that our strategies, communication, and customer relations will solve. First, the sales reps. Their skills lying in actually selling the cars lack customer service training and structure. We see this in 3 areas. First, the initial purchase is facilitated poorly. It is rushed and there's no effort to really understand Paul's needs as a customer. Secondly, the sales rep is sometimes slow to respond to Paul, taking 10 days to confirm the order and approximately 22 days to send a receipt confirmation of Paul's deposit. Lastly, the sales rep makes a verbal promise of extended warranty that can't be delivered, showcasing a need for some customer service training. The next issue is the disconnection between dealer, manufacturer, and customer. We see this in the dealer's oversight of the customer specifications, failing to relay these specifications to the manufacturer. Also, we can see an added layer of bureaucracy when the customer asks for updates and then receives vague, unhelpful information from the sales rep rather than detailed information from manufacturing. The last issue is the weak incentives and security surrounding the customer service processes. Obviously, it is an issue that the sales rep is able to fill out the customer service evaluation card themselves with no checks. And secondly, there is a noticeable decrease in the overall customer service post-delivery due to a lack of incentives for sustained customer service. So what? After outlining the weaknesses Porsche has in its customer service, which have led to 3 actionable issues, Porsche China needs to rethink the touch points between customer, dealer, and manufacturer to ensure a streamlined, efficient, and positive customer experience. I will now pass over to Nick, who will detail our first strategy, communication.
Thank you, Caleb, for exploring the insights. In addressing Porsche's issues, especially with the poor correspondence between the factory, dealership, and customers just like Paul, it is clear that communication needs to be improved. Porsche's issues in a lack of communication in accepting, confirming, and monitoring their customers' orders breaks down their customer-centric promise. It leads to dissatisfaction through a lack of clarity, delays, and mistakes. Clearly, this does not live up to Porsche's promise as a customer-centric business. To address this growing concern, Porsche should implement an order tracker. This order tracker will provide live updates of the progress of the manufacturing of customers' dream cars that involve custom adjustments, such as Paul's order. It will also serve as an avenue to facilitate seamless communication in a trilateral approach between the factory, dealership, and customers, as illustrated in the figure. No longer will Paul have to wait days to receive updates of his dream car that he's worked tirelessly for. This information will be available at the comfort of his fingertips. Porsche's order tracker will be intuitive and straightforward. As soon as customers like Paul make their deposit on their dream car, the tracking system will go live. It will provide vital documents such as formal written receipts and official order history, including any amendments made to one's order. As seen in the figure, live updates of the progress of significant installations, such as the air suspension Paul wished he had installed, will allow instant verification from the customers. Images taken in the factory of these major steps will be uploaded for the access of the customer and dealership. Importantly, the order tracker will facilitate communication between the factory and the dealership/customer to ensure Porsche's customer-centric promise is upheld. Factory staff will scan an order number attached to specific cars when progress is made, which will be accessible by customers and dealerships. This will allow customers to check the overall timeline of the delivery of their dream car, so they no longer have to wait days for their sales rep to get back to them. And significantly, dealerships can check progress against the customer's order to ensure their demands are being met. This will allow the customer and dealership to be notified by the factory if there are any difficulties. For example, in Paul's case, parts are not available. This will proactively allow customers to be given the choice of what actions to take. For example, to accept the car or wait for new parts to arrive. This will ensure the factory does not progress until they have confirmation, therefore ensuring that production does not inhibit the fulfillment of the customer's original order, such as in Paul's case. The order tracker will also facilitate communication between the dealership and the customer. Customers will be able to make amendments to their car order through the order tracker prior to the set amendment deadline. The dealership will therefore have a more streamlined system to check amendments and ensure they're not overseen, such as what David did. In the case that customers realize concerns through the progress of their car's production within the order tracker, they will be able to contact their dealership based on any of these concerns. I will now pass it on to Charlotte for the customer relations strategy.
Thanks, Nick. The next part of our strategy for Porsche China will help them to improve their customer relations. As outlined in our Insights section, Porsche China needs to improve its customer relations. Currently, sales representatives have no formal customer service training, which means that they do not know how to properly serve customers. There is also no customer profiling, meaning that the car is not properly tailored to the customer's needs. And finally, there is weak security around the feedback system, meaning that customer feedback is not always reflective of their honest opinion. These three issues will be addressed by our proposed customer relations strategy, which consists of three components which deal with each of these problems. Firstly, Porsche China should retrain its sales representatives. This process will consist of a 2-day course which will be led by the China Customer Relations team. This training will go over Porsche China's new proposed strategy, including the order tracker, feedback system, and customer profile. The feedback system and customer profile changes will be outlined later. The training will also focus on more general customer service aspects, such as how to help and please clients. It will be emphasized to the sales representatives that Porsche China is a top-tier company, and its clients expect the best in terms of service. The training will show the sales representatives how to be honest and productive employees who always put their clients first. Overall, this training will result in sales representatives which are more helpful, informed, and productive, thereby making the customer experience with Porsche much more pleasant. Next, Porsche China should make a customer profile for each client. This will consist of a matrix of key questions that the sales representatives will ask the customer. Questions will include, how far do you plan to drive on a given day? And will you be driving in the city or country or both? Once they have the answers to these questions, the sales representative will have a better understanding of the customer and can give suggestions of car options that align with their needs. Overall, this will help the customer make a more informed decision about car options and lead to them being more satisfied with their final Porsche. Finally, Porsche China should improve its feedback system. We have several proposed changes that will improve this overall process. Firstly, dealership managers will be the ones who supervise the customer filling out the feedback form instead of the sales representative. When the customer arrives at the dealership to fill out their final paperwork, the manager will give them the feedback form and walk them through it, and then collect the form from them when they are done. This will mean that the customer will not feel pressured by the presence of the sales representative, and the feedback given will be honest. Furthermore, in order to incentivize the sales representatives to provide excellent customer service, the sales representatives will be able to receive a potential bonus of up to 10% of their commission based on their scores in the feedback form. The final step in this customer service process will consist of a phone call with an employee of the customer relations team 1 month after the delivery of the car. If any complaints are made by the customer in this call, this will be verified by the employee with the manager of the dealership, and the employee will also review the actions taken by the manager to amend these issues. Overall, this process will incentivize the sales representatives to provide good customer service, as well as creating a clear, honest feedback process which prompts action if needed. I will now pass on to my team member Angus to talk about the impacts of our strategies.
Thank you, Charlotte. We will now have a look at how the strategies we've presented today will be implemented, the impact that they will have on the customer experience, and the costs of their implementation. Our strategies, which prioritize communication and customer relations, should be implemented over the next 3 years, with the results being seen after just 2. Porsche China should first conduct market research into what features their customers like in their cars and why. By doing this, Porsche can gain a better understanding of how their features can impact unique customer experiences. Porsche China should also begin the technological development of their web-based order tracker. The creation of a system which simplifies the customer experience and allows for quick and easy updates on their order will take approximately a year to fine-tune and be customer ready. After the completion of the order tracker technology and market research, Porsche sales representatives and employees must be trained in how the order tracker will work and how to profile customers to recommend the best features to add to their Porsche. The training will also involve a component of general customer service training. With updated technology and trained employees, dealerships can begin to implement the new system to improve the customer experience. It is important that feedback is received and adjustments are made to further improve Porsche's customer-centric model. By implementing our strategies, Paul Chan, a classic Porsche enthusiast and customer, can now receive a refined and improved customer experience. As soon as he arrives at the dealership, the trained Porsche sales team can make justified recommendations that cater to Paul's needs. Paul can add features to his Porsche by simply making adjustments through the easy-to-use online portal. He is then kept updated along every step of the manufacturing process, from build to delivery. His dream Porsche, a Taycan, is then delivered exactly as he ordered and confirmed through the order tracker. Paul then gives authentic feedback on his improved experience, which will be used to further improve the experiences of customers just like him. At the end of this process, Paul is happy. He's being treated as a high-end customer. Every step of his journey meets his expectations, and his experience was straightforward but also exciting. Porsche China needs to invest in itself to make these changes possible. Investments are needed to be made by both Porsche China as a company, but also the dealerships themselves. Porsche China's main expenditure will come in the way of the development and implementation of the order tracker, customer service investments, as well as market research, whereas dealerships will spend on retraining and compensation for employees based on customer satisfaction. Today we asked, how can Porsche China reform their customer experience to not only improve customer ratings, but to ensure customer satisfaction? To answer this question, we looked at each of the touch points along the journey of a typical customer, Paul. Our answer is to use a structured and streamlined approach to customer experience, to cater to the needs of the individual customer, and to constantly improve services based on customer feedback. There is a reason that the Porsche brand is one of the most valuable in the world, worth over $30 billion. It specializes in the field of making dreams come true. By staying true to its customer-centric approach, Porsche China can not only keep their brand value, but can keep making the dreams of their customers, like Paul, come true. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We would now like to open the floor to any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. It's now time for the Q&A session. Judges, please make your own questions short and concise and leave your thoughts and comments for the feedback session. The 15 minutes countdown starts now. Let's hear the first question.
Hello, hi everyone. If I may go first. Thanks for the presentation, which I enjoy a lot. My question is, I did not quite be able to connect between the presentation Nick and Charlotte, presented with the last section on the impacts. So where the communication improvement plan and also customer service, customer relation enhancement come into that overall 3 years plans.
Sure, thank you for the question. So if we could just move to the implementation of the, so at the beginning, we have a technological development of the web tracker, which is what Nick was outlining in his communication area, and the market research, which is used for retraining the employees, which was used for Charlotte's customer relations. So once the tracker has been produced after 1 year, the employee retraining will occur, which Charlotte outlined, retraining them in the system using the tracker, as well as the customer service implementations that we also said. If we go back to the customer journey slide.
Okay, so it should be within the first 6 months, right?
So the technological development takes a year for the tracker, and then after that would be about 6 months to retrain the employees and fully implement the system at the actual dealerships.
All right, thanks.
I can ask Tran. Sorry, you had a question now?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand in the initial part of your presentation, right? So you asked we should try and close specifications on day one. Why do you think that is important?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, so in the initial part of the presentation, when you were trying to analyze the problem, one of the things that you mentioned was that we should try and close the specifications of the car on day one. Why can't it be settled on day one versus why does it have to go to vetrations, right? So why do you think so?
I'm happy to answer this question, and thank you. So there's 2 reasons we've come up with why we think it could be useful to settle these specifications on the first day. When we look at Paul's experience, he is rushed in the initial section by David and doesn't get a chance to really figure out what he wants with his car. And so this leads to him in the next month revising and changing his mind, which is less, leads him to changing his mind. And it might be easier if David is able to facilitate a situation where Paul is able to understand what specifications he might like, and David's expertise can be helped out with him there on day one, rather than Paul having to change his mind later. However, we do know that customers will want to change their minds in the next few months, and we still leave that option open with our order tracker. So if they do change their minds and they want to add in new specifications, they can do that through the order tracker. And the reason we've done it that way is because when Paul tried to do it through the channel of the sales rep made a mistake. However, if you go straight through the order tracker, this can be then sent straight to the manufacturer, and all parties, dealer, customer, and manufacturer, all know what's happening.
Sorry, where does it say in the case the sales rep made a mistake?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So where does it say the sales rep made a mistake? Sorry, I missed that part.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for the question. It says that there was a dealer oversight over the new specifications that Paul sent in. So Paul, I think a month later, sent in new specifications, and those specifications did not reach the manufacturer. So when Paul received his car, it was missing those key specifications. It was a dealer oversight. And because Paul had sent those specifications to David, we've assumed that it was David who's made the mistake there.
Okay, I just want to ask a follow-up question on that, right? So do you think this was possibly just a customer service issue or also a production and line issue as well, how the order tracking at the factory works?
Yes, thank you for that question. We do believe it's two issues, one with the customer service and with the production, like you mentioned. So first of all, we see just a lack of connection between the dealer and the manufacturer, and that's what's led to the mistake where David, the sales rep, did not relay the specifications that Paul had asked for to the manufacturer. And we believe our strategy of the order tracker is actually what alleviates this extra bureaucracy that's been added into the process. Because the order tracker can be viewed by the manufacturer, the dealer, and the customer, everybody's on the same page about what is happening. And so if the manufacturer is unable to produce certain parts, that's logged onto the order tracker, the customer can then view that. And then if the customer has any questions, they can then contact their sales rep, who also understands the same problem because he can also access the order tracker. That's the main value added by our order tracker system.
Okay, sorry, just a quick separate question. Can you go back to your financial slide where you had broken up the pie chart into 55%? Yeah, the tech development. How much investment are you looking at? These are percentages. What's the value of that?
Sure. So for Porsche China, the main first expenditure, the capital expenditure, totals to around 12 million, which is broken up, as you can see in the pie chart on the right. For the dealership cost, it really depends on the dealership. So that's why the sort of costs are broken up. So it's actually the other way around on the pie chart. The bonuses make up 95% of their expenditure and the 5% for the training. And that's just dependent on how many employees that the dealership has and the bonuses that they give out.
And that was my second question. You covered in the pie chart, the reverse of the percentages. But just going back to your top chart, right? How do you think the 6 billion investment over the next few years, which is looking at technology, infrastructure, and smart mobility, not related to what you are talking here?
Sure. Do you mean the difference in the investments, like in the top half compared to the bottom half?
No. So we also in the case study, it says that there's a 6 billion euro investment by Porsche over the next few years, starting 2022, which looks at new technologies, changing infrastructure, and smart mobility, right? How is it different than what you show here on the chart on the top?
Sure. So the targeted spending that Porsche China has that we have presented is completely targeted to our strategies and the customer experience. So a bulk of that cost is actually for the technological development of the tracker, which was one of our prime strategies to improve the system of customer experience. And the market research sort of helps with what Charlotte explained before, with gaining a better understanding of what the customer wants, what specifications they also want, so they can sort of narrow that down in the first few days. So to answer your question, the costs that we have outlined here are targeted straight towards the customer experience rather than just sort of technological changes.
Okay, and just one of the last question. So typically, a Porsche car takes around 3 to 6 months to deliver. In this case, it took 9 months. And even the finalization of order was 1st of June, whereas the first trial went in March. Do you think there is an issue there?
Sure. So in the case study, they also mentioned that there was a very, very high demand for the Taycan car. This is not something that can be very easily mitigated through making the process come quicker. So one of the advantages of having our order tracker system is that the customer themselves, as well as the dealership, are able to easily see the progress and delays of the manufacturing process. So this way that the dealership and the customer have a clearer picture of what's going on and are therefore less impacted when these delays happen because they have a better understanding and know what is actually happening.
Hey, Fran, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, my follow-up question is what kind of, if you look at the implementation and action plan, then what would you see as the risk of derailment, or any risk that this implementation plan cannot be implemented, and
Yes.
mitigation, for that.
Yes, thank you very much. Caleb, if we could go to the appendix slide. So on this slide, we've done a risk and mitigation chart. So some of the risks that our team identified after the implementation of our strategy is that the factory fails to register an issue that they encounter on the order tracker. And we believe that this is not that likely, but it would be quite severe if it happened. And our mitigation in this case is that the customer is offered compensation through the order tracker website to make up for this process and the failure of the factory to register this issue. And then another risk that we identified is that the manager is too busy while they're at the store to supervise the feedback process, leaving it open to the dodgy feedback process that has been happening in the past. And the mitigation that we identified for this scenario is that the manager can obtain feedback from the customer over the phone at a later time if they find that they're too busy for when the customer comes into the store. So these were two sort of main risks that we identified that are associated with our strategies and how we plan to mitigate them. Thank you.
Thank you. If we take a step back to think, there's a risk that the manufacturing capacity, or even like the capacity, the capacity for the whole value chain, actually from manufacturing to delivering. Because the sales went very up very fast. And then there's a problem with the manufacturing capacity and other value processed as well.
Sorry, so you're asking
my asking is to see the kind of manufacturing or the capacity of the factory or manufacturing capability or capacity is a problem given the fast growing of sales.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the question there. So there's been a very high demand for especially the Taycan car, which Paul did want to receive. The strategies we've brought forth today specifically target customer experience rather than investing in the infrastructure that is needed for more production of vehicles. So as I sort of said before, one of the advantages of the order tracking system is that the customer is very aware of all the changes that are happening and delays that might be put in place. Regarding investments in like the factory sort of system, we found that this was not a strategy we wanted to go down, specifically because the demand might be quite variable. So instead, by approaching the case on strategies for the customer experience, we found that we can get the most impact on the customer experience by specifically focusing on customer service.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick closing question in 30 seconds. How would you make sure you do justice to Paul in this case?
So if we just jump to the customer journey real quick, in Paul's case, we would have a much more sort of clear and simple approach. He arrives at the dealership, he goes through the structured process, questions are asked, there's a customer profile made about him, he gets the right specification at the right time.
Sorry, this is fine. This is the life cycle you're saying. What could have been done better? I'm saying we are where we are. What would you do to retain Paul now?
Oh, like where he is now. So providing him the proper compensation and getting the proper feedback from him, going to the higher levels of manager to properly make a decision of how we can actually improve Paul's experience is something that was lacking the case. But our strategy is sort of resolved with the feedback section and also the customer training.
Okay, thank you all. The judges will now, because it's time's up, so the judges will now stay in the room to deliberate. Their team will place you in the waiting room and bring you back in for the feedback session in a few minutes. Everyone else, please kindly leave the room, and we will see you later for the results announcement. Thank you.